Greetings everyone, Luke here with Not Roger Van Der Wade for another episode of Give Me Chaos Theories.
Yep, it's time for another episode of this new series. Now, in the previous episode, I mentioned about my disliking to how Sega's been relying too heavily on classic Sonic in these recent games, and pulling up that quote from Muggy Mikey, which was, "It's not nostalgia, it's now the norm." Well, that eventually got me thinking on the whole situation. Has there been too much classic Sonic in recent years? Has he overstayed his welcome? Has the nostalgia factor started to lose its luster? Or is he the reason why Legacy Sonic is being held back and not moving forward into the future? Who knows? There is an interesting quote from Mad Men that I remember the Kaz Blade brought up in his Problems with Sonic Forces video, and that was, "Nostalgia is delicate, but potent." So depending on how nostalgia is used, it can have a positive and negative side to it, like one side would be, "Oh wow, Green Hill Zone, I remember that, it's so nostalgic." And another side to that would be, "Oh, Green Hill Zone, again? I'm getting tired of seeing this stage constantly showing up. I want something new, damn it."
I'm not much of an expert on this, but I can understand how nostalgia has a positive and negative effect. So in this episode, we'll be discussing about the main console games, specifically from Sonic 4 up to Sonic Forces, and see if Sega has been doing too much nostalgia pandering as the internet has been calling it nowadays.
Ah yes, Sonic 4, a game that was revealed to be a continuation of the Genesis games, with Sonic's current design, and all hell broke loose in the fanbase, as well as the birth of people being prejudiced against anyone with green eyes. I personally feel like this was the starting point of Sega relying on nostalgia more, and it's pretty obvious this game has an overdose of nostalgia with enemies and stuff. One change that I liked about it was that the special stages that are ripped out of the first game. Now, the original special stages in Sonic 1 always gave me a headache. Just the way you had to move around in a spinning maze constantly while the background always kept moving and changing always screwed me up back then. But now this time you can control the maze itself, which feels more comfortable to my taste. Despite the overabundance of bumpers the latest levels get. And of course, we all know how the game is not the most well-received game out of the bunch.
Most of the drama is really stupid, like hearing them ranting over green eyes and their attempts of boycotting a Sega game by buying multiple copies of another Sega game. Bloody idiots. But if you look hard enough, there are some legitimate complaints as to why nostalgia works against this game. I mean, with a name like Sonic 4, you'd think we'll see brand new levels to explore and brand new enemies to fight, while adding a few elements from the past. But instead, they just recycle enemies and bosses from the past instead of making new ones. And the levels just look like previously made levels, just with a different name tacked on. Even though it takes place after the events of Sonic and Knuckles, the story itself is non-existent in this game and doesn't add much to Sonic's past.
The levels might look neat, but they don't really add much. I mean, you look at Splash Hill Zone, and the first thing that comes to your mind is Green Hill Zone. It's like, well, why didn't they just use Green Hill Zone and not this cheap copycat? It's not like in the first stages for Sonic 2 and 3 where they have some elements of Green Hill, but still manage to add some flavor and style to it that it becomes its own thing. But here it's just the same checkered patterns with the same loops, with the same green grass, with the same enemies taken straight from the first game. The only new thing they added in was a vine swinging, but even a small gimmick like that is just not enough to win people over and saying, "Hey, I've never played this level before, it feels so new and different." And just like what Luke said, the name feels like a letdown. If the game was rebranded with a different name and labeled as a spin-off game, like, say, something like New Super Mario Bros., then it probably wouldn't get that much backlash that it did. But of course, now we have Sonic Mania, and everyone's saying that's the real Sonic 4, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sega confirmed this as just an excuse to sweep the original Sonic 4 under the rug. It's the Sonic game that everyone wants to kill me over! All because I don't like it. Well, in this game, the nostalgia factor is toned down greatly. The visuals and level designs are a little more different, and the game itself is definitely a lot more platform-heavy rather than speed. Only a few badniks from the past show up in the game, specifically those racing segments with the motor bugs. And the cast of characters in the story are also like the Genesis games, only including Sonic, Tails, and Robotnik. Well, unless you count the DS version, which features all of Sonic's friends, even though they've been reduced to the whole do the mission and get a cookie role. In fact, now that I think about it, it's kind of interesting that Sega's made a lot of references to the DS version of Colors. I mean, We got a character showing up in Sonic Runners, and even in the new continuity of Archie Sonic, they considered the DS version to be canon. But enough about that. So, in the end, Colors is not as big as Sonic 4 with the nostalgia pandering, just a few little nods here and there. But even so, I still don't like the game for a numerous amount of reasons. But let's just move on, because people are already getting tired of me bringing up Colors.
Ah yes, Sonic Generations. The hype for this game was all over the place, although it didn't help that Sega was spoiling everything about this game in their trailers. The game is full of a lot of levels and enemies from past games, but they give them some unique flair to make it feel familiar and new at the same time.
Yeah, the game has an overabundance of nostalgia throwbacks to the past, but I give this game a free pass simply because it was heavily marketed as the 20th anniversary title for Sonic. Little celebration of his past and present time, so in terms of visuals, it's nice. I like seeing the classic Badniks getting those slightly modified updates, like how Motobug and Buzz Bomber still look goofy but have a more menacing look to them. The levels start off familiar, like the old games, but then they add in some new twists and turns to the designs to make them feel almost new, as well as experiencing these levels in a different point of view depending on which Sonic you're playing. Even the boss fights themselves have the same effect, like the Death Egg Robot, or Egg Destroyer Battlesuit as I like to call him. Starts off like the original, 2D layout, has the same basic attacks, but then after a few hits it then switches to this somewhat 2.5D thing, where you have to lure the robot to hit some bombs in order to nail a hit. So yeah, Generations is a good example of bringing in some nostalgic elements, but also giving them some tweaks here and there to make them feel new.
For a follow-up to the previous episode, it's surprising how they try to be more original with the design of the enemies and bosses this time, rather than just recycling old enemies again. Although that still doesn't excuse the obvious remakes of past levels.
The development process for this game still remains a mystery to me. It's like first there's no effort, then the next episode has some effort in trying to be its own thing. I almost feel like the level designs, they tried to be something like what they did with the first levels in Sonic 2 and 3, but it just doesn't work quite right. One positive side to this revamping the nostalgia here is that you play as Sonic and Tails is always following you, just like in Sonic 2, except now they have tag team power-ups to get past obstacles, which is really cool and a real shame they've never done this concept in future Sonic games. Well, okay, there's Forces with that whole double boost thing, but it was very underwhelming and pointless anyway. So that's episode 2. Not much to say about this. It tries to be more original, it was already too late for that, and then everyone forgot all about episode 2. Much like Sonic 4 episode 1, this is another case where I feel they played the nostalgia card the wrong way. I mean, first there's Windy Hill Zone, which is basically Super Green Hill Zone with its bright colors and overuse of checkered patterns. In fact, every level in this game is super colorful and bright, and I'm surprised this wasn't called Sonic Colors. But I think one major element of this game that really distracts me is the enemies because 80% of them are all classic badniks, but now they look like chibis. Wait, what? First we went from updating the classic designs, and now we have them looking like they came out of a kindergartner's drawing book.
Yeah, we've gone from Sonic battling robots in all different shapes and sizes that pose a threat to him and his friends, to Sonic battling a bunch of tiny cute little robots that just run around in circles. Next thing you know, he's going to go on a rampage in trying to hunt down Wally for just bumping into him by accident.
I mean, if these designs were used in a minigame, I wouldn't mind it, but no, these are your main threats. These small, tiny, cute robot things that barely pose a threat because of how overpowered the frickin' homing attack is in this game. So yeah, not that good with the nostalgia thing in Lost World. Yeah, this game. I'll let Luke cover this one.
Sonic Mania is filled to the brim with references from his past adventures, such as seeing enemies from the Genesis games return, Mega Drive in the UK, along with some old levels coming back like Green Hill Zone and Flying Battery Zone. There's even a boss fight where it references Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. The nostalgia is really high in this game, but it can have a positive and negative effect at the same time. A positive side to this is that the levels are redesigned, making them feel new and not just a copy and paste job from the original Genesis games. but on the negative side, there's only 4 brand new levels in the entire game. So it's like Sonic 4 where they decided to play it safe.
Yeah, not a fan of the idea about the 4 new levels and the rest are just past levels remade. That was pretty much one of the many reasons that scared me off from playing Sonic Mania. I mean, you'd think at this point they'd be more comfortable with exploring new ideas rather than just trying to copy off what Generations did. I heard something about Azuka was the one who insisted in bringing in more older levels rather than more newer levels. But hey, what do I know? I'm just an asshole who's still prejudiced over this game. Also, I'd like to add in a bit of an apology where back in the day when Sonic Mania was coming out, I was pretty harsh on it at first, saying like, oh, why bother wasting $20 on a fan-made Sonic game when you can easily download them on the internet for free? And yeah, sorry about that. I have nothing against Christian Whitehead and all those guys who worked on Mania. It's just that the whole over-reliance on a classic Sonic that was becoming a little more apparent to me at this time. Well, in my opinion anyway. And the game was just rubbing me the wrong way. So nowadays, I still have no interest in playing Sonic Mania because 1, the game was heavily marketed towards the classic Sonic fans, which did a good job. However, I'm more of a legacy Sonic fan, so clearly this game is not for me. And 2, the game is very, 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 very overrated. Well, okay, it's not overrated. It's, overpraised would be the proper term for my case. I mean, seriously, almost every freaking review for Sonic Mania can pretty much be summed up like this.
Sonic Mania
is truly perfect. If you do not get this amazing new generation of
Sonic
madness, you are stupid. Yes, I know, that's insulting, but it's also the truth.
There are several words that can easily describe this game, one of them being missed opportunities in case of story and confusion with what it was trying to market itself as being the return of dark and edgy, even though it's laughable and a lot of the dialogue that tries to make it sound more serious really has no context to support it. How does this game handle the nostalgia? Well, we have classic Sonic, again, and unlike Generations, he does little to nothing to help out in the battle. He's just there to establish some poor excuse of a retcon.
When I first saw that cutscene where classic Sonic is introduced and Chaos is easily defeated by him, I was like, was that it? It could have been used as a boss fight and it made me realise how underused Chaos is in this game. No perfect Chaos boss fight or anything, so that was disappointing. It's like in a movie or a game where you see 2 characters about to have a cool fight, but they didn't have the time or budget for it, and the bad guy gets dispatched easily.
That's the problem with Forces. It has so much wasted potential and opportunities that so many ideas that are never brought up, like the whole deal with the Phantom Ruby creating illusions, is barely touched upon, and the only thing that we see create for Robotnik's army is Shadow, Chaos, Metal Sonic, and Zavok. And you only get to fight half of those guys in the entire game, while the other half are only killed off in cutscenes. Man, poor Chaos. Everyone was hyped to see him again and wondering why he's in the story and how they'll be able to fight him. Will it be an extreme rematch for their first fight? A new boss fight where he constantly changes forms? Nope, we just have classic Sonic show up out of nowhere and bonk him on the head. That's it. And that's one negative side to this use of nostalgia. Featuring a character you haven't seen in a long time, have him hyped up in the trailers, and he doesn't do anything. It's like, hey kids, remember Chaos? Yay! Well, too bad, we're not gonna use him. That's all you're gonna see out of him. Also, I feel like there was some sort of a budget or copyright issue with Robotnik's army at the end. Like, it's just multiple copies of those 4 characters and that's it. I think it would have been cool if Robotnik used the Phantom Ruby to bring in more stronger foes, like Perfect Chaos and BioLizard, and maybe a handful of final bosses from the previous games that can run on their own without the aid of Robotnik. Another thing that adds to this confusion is that unlike Generations, Forces wasn't advertised as an anniversary game, and it was alongside Mania that were supposed to be released for its anniversary, but they came out a year late, and yeah, it leads to a bit of confusion, like, which one is supposed to be the real anniversary title? Forces? Mania? Both of them? None of them? I don't know. And to me, it looks like Sega doesn't even know either. And again, Classic Sonic really has no purpose and no point in being in this game. It feels like at this point in time, Sega is just like, who cares? They'll buy anything with that fat bastard's face put it on it.
Well, in a way, it kind of feels like comparing Doctor Who crossovers, the 3 Doctors and the 2 Doctors, if Classic Sonic was Patrick Troughton. In the Three Doctors, Sonic Generations, it made sense as it was an anniversary special and you see them both working together to save time and space. In the Two Doctors, Sonic Forces, it was just a typical Colin Baker story with Troughton shoehorned in for nostalgia, and the story would still be the same without him. For the game, classic Sonic was probably used in Forces, so you can have classic Sonic gameplay in Forces, and they needed extra help to fight in a war. I don't think they even interacted that much, as only modern Sonic cared about his new partner, the Avatar, although in a way, classic Sonic is pretty much partners with Tails here.
Yeah, that whole quote-unquote bond that Tails and Classic Sonic has was pretty creepy and just rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, after Tails finds out, oh, my Sonic is alive, and that's it. It's only one scene. Throughout the rest of the game, he's constantly gushing over Classic Sonic. Yeesh. So that was our look on the whole ordeal. So how does this whole too much Classic Sonic hold up? Well, in physical terms, Classic Sonic's only showed up in Generations and Forces. He hasn't showed up in every main title. I mean, even if we include some spin-off games like Sonic Dash and Sonic Runners, like, yeah, he's there, but again, he's only optional. You don't need it to unlock him to beat the game or whatnot, because they're not those kind of games. But as for the elements surrounding Classic Sonic, which led into the whole nostalgia pandering topic, that kind of stuff is pretty high. It started off slow with Sonic 4 Episode 1, Colors barely had any of that, Generations was the high point, and then after that it felt like, well, if it worked for Generations, we'll just use it in every other game. So in other words, after Sonic Generations, the whole nostalgia pandering thing became more of their get out of jail free card, and just slapping it onto any title they can think of, and not putting that much heart and soul into it. It's like, they'll put Green Hill Zone on anything, and they'll think it'll sell like hotcakes, despite the lack of attention that we have for the rest of the game. Hey. And of course, since they announced that whole DLC thing for Sonic Mania, along with that official web series on YouTube only focusing on Sonic Mania, yeah, I'm sure that's going to add a lot more fuel to the fire on that whole too much classic Sonic discussion. But in a nutshell, the entirety of it, some say it's quite debatable. I mean, sure, we get to physically see the character in Generations and Forces and yada yada, but he's technically not hogging up all of the screen time. Here's the bonus topic I felt like throwing in, because this is rather interesting because of how popular Sonic Mania was for everyone, except me. And since Forces was a huge disappointment to a lot of fans who wanted the return of a more adventurous Sonic game and some familiar faces getting the spotlight again, it does provide an unsettling rift between these games. I'm sure a lot of Legacy Sonic fans feel threatened or fear the idea that Sega will just get rid of Legacy Sonic altogether and focus only on Classic Sonic for the future. It's like, well, nobody likes Sonic Forces, and since Sonic Mania was a success, let's just get rid of him and only focus on Classic Sonic. He'll be the biggest cash cow since Call of Duty. Hoo-hoo!
I wouldn't say kill him off, but maybe just make him tone down his personality and not talk so bloody much all the time. They had the right idea with Boom Sonic, but it can be annoying to have him talk to you so much during the levels, and Sonic Forces just made it even worse. It's like having that one friend who drives you crazy because he never shuts up. At this current time, we don't know what they're going to do with Sonic.
Yeah, with how these games are completely polar opposites from one another, who's to say what the future holds for both Classic and Legacy Sonic? I mean, sure, Sega has done a lot of questionable things with handling the Sonic games and whatnot, but the idea of them just killing off Legacy Sonic and leaving him dead and just sticking with only one version of Sonic in games, that would have to be a very ballsy move for Sega to just go with that plan.